Well, we're here live with the lovely Lynn Tyler Thompson. Laura, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling so fantastic. Just taking Abbotsford South by storm and fighting hard, campaigning hard, doing all kinds of things. I've got some robocalls going out. Some people a little bit annoyed by robocalls. Some people calling to say thank you. I didn't even know you were running, so thank you for calling. And now we know you're here. So you got to put up with the hate and the love.
Well, we politicians wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work. So I'm glad that you're
Right.
getting some good results from this. Well, this
Yeah.
isn't your first rodeo. It's not your first campaign. Tell me how it happened that you became the leader of the Christian Heritage Party.
Well, that was really Rod Taylor. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't seek it out. Rod and I have had so much respect for one another, and he called me and he said, "What do you think? Would you like to, be the leader?" And I kind of, laughed. Well, I could do that. Heck, I didn't know 3 years ago I was going to be in any political campaign. So I've done, this is my fourth one now. Um, okay. So I said, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to talk to my husband, see what he thinks. And Rod said, don't worry. It's not going to be a big deal because you can see I'm driving. I don't have the wheel, everyone, but I'm in a car. Um, you don't have to do anything. It's going to be fairly simple, right? Just, kind of have some vision and all that. And I say, oh, yeah, okay. So within 10 days, of course, an election is called. And so all of a sudden, it's not nothing. It's everything. It's like whoosh, you're flying out the door. So that's how it happened. And I have tremendous respect for Rod Taylor. I have tremendous respect for the values and integrity of the Christian Heritage Party. The number one comment I'm getting is, you can't mix Christian with politics. So they don't like the name. It's very clear. I've spoken with Rod about that. So, people are suggesting maybe Canadian Heritage Party, but just to give it a little bit more opening for a lot of people. So that's one thing that internally we're going to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Well, as the leader, normally a leader has to there's the political side of running and having the policy, but then there's sort of that background part of getting candidates going. The Greens were caught really flat-footed by this surprise election call. And I don't know, has there been any aspect of that where you're trying to get some candidates going, or has it just been, hey, let's run and let's make the best of this and think about what it could be in a future date?
We had to just make the best of it. So my plan is that the next time around, we've got 87, 87 candidates for British Columbia ready to go. It has caught us off. I don't think anybody really expected that this is what was going to happen. And so Horgan, of course, has made a power grab, right? He wanted, he thought that it would be better to do it now than in a year when quite possibly the outfall of this COVID economic nightmare, the bankruptcies, the economic loss that British Columbia is beginning to see and will face, that they wouldn't want to run an election there, but they want to do it now when they think that they can get away with it. So very sad, but we're going to fight hard.
Well, when I talked to Randy Hillier, the independent MPP in Ontario, that was his suspicion that in the provinces, so we'd already seen, I think in Nova Scotia, they'd had an election, and now in BC and Saskatchewan, although Saskatchewan's is a fixed election date on the 26th, 2 days after yours, that, yeah, they want to get these elections in because the shine of, taking care of everyone during the pandemic is going to wear off. And after that, there's going to be more of the economic fallout, especially if there are another round of lockdowns. What are the issues that you are campaigning on?
Well, first of all, I want to say I love Randy Hillier, and I just thank God for men who are standing for their province, the way he's standing for Ontario. And Randy Hillier is asking tough questions, and he's an independent. And this is the day of independent or small parties. It's time for people to stop voting in establishment parties that have to toe the line. You might have heard of what's happened to Laurie Throness out here. And we could always mention that. I just think you have to vote for Laurie Throness because he has stood so hard for family values, you know, traditional values, things that matter to British Columbians, and things that the party has shut him down on. And so truly tragic that the person controlling, you know, Canada, the people are at the top of these parties, and they are giving the word to everyone else, which is not the voice of the people. We have got to stop voting in Liberal, NDP, Greens, sold out to a, you know, a globalist agenda. So what I'm fighting for, you know, I got a great brochure here. It's been handed out everywhere. And inside this brochure is some great stuff. We worked really hard late into the night. We actually have our platform here. This is much like you and I did for People's Party of Canada when we actually listed what our platform was, where other parties, you go online and you don't really know what they stand for. So restart the economy, free speech. We believe free speech is under our parental rights. This includes choosing where your child goes to school, and also those funds following the school with school vouchers. Also, you know, that we need parental rights restored. We do not want little boys and girls confused with gender theory, gender ideology that tells you that you can change your sex. We want to follow science, DNA, and stick to the, you know, the basics in school and not be talking about all of this. And boy, are people ever excited that I am just so vocal about it and willing to stand on stuff like that. Also, conscience rights. We have all of this, you know, coming into our country, basically the whole country, where doctors may be forced to, you know, perform certain things against their conscience, and we don't want that to be the case. Vaccination choice. We're all hearing about vaccines. We want everybody. This should always be a choice. You know, the left loves to say my body, my choice, but they are irate if you're starting to say, well, my body, no vaccine. Well, they don't like that. So food security, you know, this is a growing concern actually with our food and maintaining, you know, adequate supplies for the people of Canada. Defund gender reassignment. So it's very shocking to me, and this is a very passionate one for me, that we are all, as British Columbians and Canadians, we are paying for everybody's gender reassignment surgery. Like if you have diabetes, you don't get your insulin paid for. I have lupus. It's a real disease. I take hydroxychloroquine, that famous drug now, and I take that. I will be taking that the rest of my life, and I don't get anyone paying for that. But if I want to change and become a man, you know, I can get that gender reassignment surgery done. I can have all kinds of, you know, things tucked and taken away, and so that's not right. And also basically to restart the economy, get the U.S. border open again. It's just killing agriculture. And when we know about this COVID-19, 99.76% recovery, even, and there are remedies. He has, you know, he's got some excess weight on him. He survived. Kids, the rate for children under 20 is 99.96% recovery. Let's get back to work. Let's open our borders. Let's open our economy and be strong.
Mm-hmm. You know, it was 1 year ago to this day that we had the federal election, and you and I were waiting to see what the results were going to be. And
is it?
yes,
right.
So you, of course, had the famous encounter with Jagmeet Singh and some very lively debates at the by-election, and then that prepared you for the election that followed. Now, where you're running now, does that overlap the federal area that you were running in your first election? Like, is there any overlap in areas that you run as a candidate before and where you're running provincially now?
No, I ran in Burnaby South before, which is really close, 5 minutes away from my home. And then where I'm running right now is about 35, 40 minutes away in a different direction. The total difference, though, Lee, is Burnaby South is very NDP. It's entrenched a lot of years of NDP complete indoctrination. And the Abbotsford area is like a Bible Belt, very conservative, always conservative. A lot of people with very traditional family values. And so I chose that because I think that the Christian Heritage Party of anywhere might appeal to that demographic.
Yeah, and tell me about the issues that really got you involved in politics in the first place, because I don't know if you were a very political person initially, but the sexual orientation, gender identity teachings that were getting into BC schools seem to really motivate you and put you on a new trajectory. So maybe tell viewers about that, because not all of my viewers would be familiar with your story.
Right. And if you have any problems, I am going through an area with a little bit of trouble with internet sometimes, so I'm sorry about that. Let me know if it's a problem. Absolutely, Lee, when I realized that they were teaching this gender stuff, I basically, my whole life flipped upside down, and I paid a high price. I started fighting it. I got targeted by the LGBTQ. They went after my job. They called the CRTC and requested that I would not be allowed on the air. They called all the stations that I was doing television on. They called all the broadcasters and all the advertisers and really went after me. And so the best thing out of that was that I found a true calling. I found that I was supposed to be doing something else. And so I'm here to stand. I'm here to fight hard. I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do, which is speak up for the nation, to be salt and light in this world, to stop being a coward. And I'm afraid Canada's full of cowards. I'm a little disappointed that, Christians do not band together. And I'm just going to plug in now because my battery's so low that it's going to crash out. Now it won't. The audio might be different because I had to exchange the jacks. But I'm going to fight hard for what we value and what we believe in. And that is not happening. People are really, I'm very concerned, Lee, for the same things that I was concerned about a year ago, is that there's a few more awakened, but we're not fighting hard enough for what we want and what we need for our future generations, and we need to wake up.
Do you find that when you talk to people at the doors that they are unaware of the things that you're talking about, or do they have some awareness and find what you're saying is a breath of fresh air? What's it really like when you're encountering people?
They're very aware. And in fact, the Sikh community is one of the surprises, that they really, really are not happy about this gender thing. So anybody can say anything they want about, you're just fighting, you're just a Christian or whatever. No, atheists. I had a great call from another guy the other night. He saw my sign up and he said, I'm not religious. So right there, I saw your sign. I'm like, oh, that'll, not going to vote for her. Gets home, sees my brochure, opens it up, finds out that he agrees with everything on my brochure, and calls me. He just wanted to check about gun rights, how I feel about guns. And so I told him that I'm totally good with guns. And it's getting dark, as I talk to you. So I just told him I'm totally good with.
You're a wonderful right. reflection. I mean, we've got a metaphor happening. You're traveling, you're going somewhere, and you're making it happen. So keep going.
I will keep going. And I just thank you, Lee. I think everybody's standing with us. I think I have more support than I thought. I am very encouraged. I'll make a dent, and with a miracle, if the good Lord wants the Red Sea to part, it will, and I'm here for that. So I'm open to a miracle, but I'm going to stand strong, and we're definitely going to have an impact, and then I'll be back next time.
You know, that's really interesting because I talked to Jen Smith earlier today, who's running in Victoria Swan Lake, and I'd seen some video of a speech that he did yesterday at a non-debate, as the Minister of Education, Rob Fleming, did not show up for what they had set up. Actually, no one else did, and so it was Jen Smith talking, and then as well the father that goes by the media name Clark, like a Clark Kent, a sort of a secret identity, because the courts don't know who he is, and you're quite familiar with him. But Jen Smith actually used that metaphor. He says, if by some miracle the Red Sea parts and I go to the legislature, I want to have all voices able to speak. And he said, I think that with COVID, there has been such a censorship of opinion. He said, even on issues that I don't agree with, I want people to have a platform to be able to say what it is that they have to say, and their input is considered on important issues. It's not that there are no convictions that a person has as a leader, but he believes that we need to be allowed to say these things. And so
that's so good. I'm glad you talked to him, Lee. I'm so proud of Jen Smith. He voted for me. I'm actually in his riding, if you can believe that. He voted for me. So he voted for me, but he's fighting Rob Fleming over on the island. And so it's fantastic. And I was just talking to somebody about their gay child today, and their gay son is really upset because, you know, she's voting for me. And he's like, she's, you know, he's bought into the whole thing. And I said, well, just let him know that a trans guy's voting for me. And actually LGBTQ do like me, because a lot of them don't want children transitioned either, right? So it's really interesting that we're all deciding we're going to fight, like everybody, like Lee, you got into it too when you fought for the People's Party, because you know everything's upside down and you wanted to fight, and a whole bunch of people are now doing that. A whole bunch of people are now deciding that they're going to fight hard for their country, and the establishment parties aren't going to do it for them. They don't believe, well, they do believe what we believe for the most part, but they don't have the guts to say it. And so because nobody's got courage, we're losing our nation.
Well, that is exactly what Randy Hillier told me. He said, I said, are there people that are quietly coming along your side from the conservative MPPs? And he kind of chuckled and he said, there's more of them on my side than there are on Rob Ford's side. They just don't want to say it. They don't want to get kicked out of the party or what have you. So, you know, and he doesn't care anymore because he was kicked out of the party spring of 2019, and now he is a free agent. So I know when I used to travel the roads of Saskatchewan talking to people about issues, they often thought that the party system got in the way. And even some members of parliament have thought that the party system prevents them from speaking the will of their constituents. And in fact, a study was done, I think it was by Carleton University, where they interviewed a number of former members of parliament. One of them said, we were like trained seals, you know, and just whatever the leader said, they would vote. And people deserve better. I understand why we have party discipline. I understand the purpose of it. It's not all bad, but it would be nice if the powers of conformity were not so strong. And so who is getting behind you, Laura Lynn? I'm wondering who's new, who has supported you in past campaigns that said, you know what, whatever you're doing, I'm in.
Yeah, lots of support, a lot of people supporting. I'm shocked by that. And a lot of people have come from Burnaby South to help me. And so that's been really great. I think that people that are right standing, some people have sent me money that I have to send back from Ontario. They've sent me money for my campaign. And It's just awesome. But then I found out that their address is not in BC, so I can't accept the money. It's terrible, terrible. But I feel so blessed that people are standing up for what's right, and I love these people. So it's awesome, Lee. It really is.
Well, it looks like you're having fun. Now, what do you think the showing is going to be? Or is the election result really the point? Because I got to, in talking to Jen, I got the feeling that, yes, he would love to win, but the public awareness that happens through the campaign, or even people who are willing, media who's willing to give his perspective the time of day now, whereas before he couldn't get any newspaper to say, print anything he was saying, is the point of running, raising awareness and maybe raising a movement on issues more than getting elected?
I think that Jen Smith has the right idea. Like, we'd love to win. I think I'm going to do well. I would like it, but it is really, you know what? We get to have a voice when we show up. If you show up, you get to have a voice. And can you believe it? Jen Smith shows up, and Rob Fleming, he's probably scared of him. Rob Fleming can't argue one little bit against Jen Smith. Rob Fleming doesn't have the skill to argue Jen Smith's amazing knowledge about transitioning minors and what they're doing to kids in foster care in BC, and how there's a doctor in British Columbia actually bragging about transitioning 500 foster kids. Like, that guy needs to be hauled into jail. Never mind, that the MSM is silent about it. Nobody talks about it. Well, one way we get to talk is we get to go in the paper, and are you hearing me okay? Just checking.
I'm hearing you great. Your passion's coming through like a bell.
Okay. Well, a funny story. So the paper sends candidates questions. One of the questions was, do you think that hate speech should be really implemented because of the new BLM movement? And I'm like, no. And I wrote a 250 word, I only had 250 words, and I wrote it all about the BLM movement being Marxist socialists, that they are witches, and that they pray to the dead. Now, all of that might sound insane, even as I'm saying it to your audience, but it's all true. So we have video of what the leaders have said, and they're lesbian, they're pro-LGBTQ, pro-trans, they're getting everybody to talk trans, even little kids, defend the black trans, basically. Okay, really, is this what little kids should, this is what this is all about? And so I talk all about their looting, burning down America, and we're not far from it. We have got a huge BLM following here in British Columbia. They showed up unbelievably after the death of George Floyd. Thousands marched downtown. I'm like, where did these people come from? Like, what network are they connected to that they've all showed up here? And we're very close to, we could have mayhem or upside down crazy just in a flicker of time. And this is not the message we want. Now all of our schools are starting to say, to teach kids about BLM. And God forbid that you say all lives matter. You're some kind of nut then. Apparently, white racism, doesn't exist. You can't be racist against white people. Yes, you can. White people have died in America because they're white lately. And this is stirring up racism. So the guy from the paper, he actually was so shocked by my answer that he had to call to make sure I wasn't being sabotaged. He goes, I just want to make sure that was actually your answer, because it's kind of controversial. And I just want to make sure you really wanted to write that. Yes, I do. All of it. Thank you, sir. Whoops. Thank you very much. I would just love and thank you for putting my whole entire answer in your paper. how else do we get our voice out there, Lee? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. Same with Jen Smith.
Well, I remember when Faitine Grisheshi was, well, not even a Grisheshi yet. She was still Faitine Crisco, and there was a place in Parliament where you could set up for a press conference and say what you have to say. And she was speaking for traditional marriage, and one of the people there said, you know, we've had many people on the other side who've talked about this, and we haven't had very many from your side, and I don't know where your side has been, because he says, I know there's far more people that think that way than are talking about it. And she said, well, you'll have to pardon me, but I only learned about that this place existed yesterday. You know, so she went right away, and there are so many open doors that we have not used, and sometimes we have to say what constitutes opportunity for what our convictions are. And I am aware of the BLM Marxism. I know there was one leader who did talk to the dead and do some of those things. The Marxism, though, is woven throughout, and the very symbol of revolution that is used is a Marxist symbol. So the symbols and what they say on the website is very, very clear. And we've got a comment here from someone in Alberta who, yes, she's aware, that person is aware of what you had printed there. So yes, you meant every word you said. This is exciting. Gosh, I just want to, I feel like you do when I'm on your show. Just talk, just say what's on your heart and mind. I'm wondering, maybe just as a contrast, what is is there a difference in the political climate between, you know, Surrey and Red Deer and Burnaby, or are you seeing some parallels too? What's that like?
Well, Red Deer and Abbotsford are the same kind of folk. They are awesome. They are conservatives. They value family and traditional values. They value Judeo-Christian values. A lot of people might not be totally going to church or anything like that, but they just value what Canada brings as a society. So they understand that if we don't have this kind of democracy under the supremacy of God, that then we end up with something like Syria or Iraq, if we want to have that. But instead, we got BC, we got Canada, you know, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We have all these incredible places with people with values, came up through Christian teachings, the 10 Commandments, loving, no violence, no murder, you know, and so people love this, and that's the kind of folk, and that's why someone from Abbotsford can go, well, you know, I don't call myself, you know, a religious person. I'm not a Christian, but I really, like, I open your flyer and I love everything that you're saying. And we have got to become a voice. And the reason that someone like that would vote for me, because all the establishment parties, they won't say a word about BLM. They won't say a word about this gender fluid theory that they don't want taught to their children. But will they speak? No. And so a generation of fighters is now coming alive, and these are the people that end up, there's 700 people when there's over 2,000. The paper, of course, calls us basically, you know, conspiracy theorists, when we have the facts. We're talking about what the real doctors are saying, you know, about masks. Real doctors, like, how are we conspiracy theorists? We're just listening to trained, educated doctors. What's wrong with that? You know, what is wrong with that? Why are we the weird ones? How does that make us weird when we're quoting from experts? And so I'm just so done with it. I'm so excited. Like, win or lose, I'm having a great day next Saturday. It doesn't matter. If something goes great, that's going to be fantastic. If not, I'll be broadcasting Monday morning, and I'm going to be standing for our values in Canada, and I'm going to be standing for families and life and freedom and good things that we should all be fighting for, that not enough of us are fighting for. The silent majority.
You know, someone just got they asked me a question here, and I'm going to honor it. Walt Salt asking what you think about the Liberal letter that I reviewed about Canada going socialist. Now, I don't know if this might have been the thing that Odessa posted about that was supposedly from a Liberal insider that leaked. Are you aware of the one I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I am. And Lee, you know what I'm looking for with that letter? I'm looking for credibility that is a real letter. I have a check inside, like, you know, I need corroboration on that letter. Is that a legitimate leak, or is it somebody messing with all of us?
Well, the best
I've talked to some pretty high ups. Yeah. What has anyone found that?
Well, I don't think that this is something that I don't know how much people would really admit it if they were on the trail or in that circle where that information or those agendas would be going forward. And to me, I thought that there were parts of it that reflect the ultimate direction that the powers that be want to take things. And so in that sense, it drew my attention. And even if it's not an actual leak, something like this is a kind of scenario that could be used. And when you look at the lockstep document from 2010, where the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation and Global Business Network had envisioned a coronavirus, it was a pandemic with a strict lockdown in China, and governments would restrict travel, and but the interesting thing that they said there was, after the pandemic ends, the heavy hand of government remained until years later people started, trying to throw off the shackles. So already, the very least we can say is that people with a lot of money and really people that want to guide the way the world goes have thought that a pandemic would be an opportunity to seize. And so that's the part that we do know. And I feel a little bit like the Star Trek one. You're breaking up, Captain. You were frozen for a second, so I just kept talking. So, yeah, you know what? We've talked for a half hour and we've covered a lot of the bases that I wanted to. But let's talk about your communication side.
Yeah.
This channel is going to continue. And what has it been like for you to have these guests? Has it opened your mind? Has it been empowering? Would you encourage others to do it? I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, I'm loving doing the show. I feel that it's my calling. I feel that I'm bringing valuable guests. Dr. Stephen Malthouse has been on my show, and he just released a valuable letter about the truth of COVID-19. And I spoke with him this afternoon on the phone, and, I'm rebooking him for the show. This man has put out a letter that is telling the truth, where Dr. Bonnie Henry, and Dr. Teresa Tam, they're just so pathetic. Tell us to take vitamin D, but stop telling us that you need to lock down, wear more masks, all this stuff going on in BC. It's just ridiculous. The curve is flattened, and we might have more cases, coming forward, but not more deaths. We have more cases because we're testing more people. We're up 800% in testing and 25% up in cases. Of course, there's more cases. There's just nothing honest about the way they're reporting this. So I love doing the show. I love the guests. I love when you come on, Lee, and you give us the score on, the politics angle. You're absolutely fantastic, and I see a great career ahead for you. So I hope you keep doing that.
Man, that is a very refreshing thing to hear, and I hope that you're right. I want to point, and I'm going to bear with me a little bit. I'm going to try to share the screen and just let viewers know that
Sure.
Application window, tab. Hey, here we go. So this is my writing at the Frontier Center. This is one of 3 outlets I write at. I also write for Epoch Times, which I do news articles for them only. And
I love it.
also write for the Western. And so at Frontier Center, I've talked about how the statue's getting torn down and John A., that's no good. I've written an essay and also an opinion piece about the Muslim Brotherhood, because France and Germany and England have taken a much closer look at this. But what reminded me of the writing was what you had talked about with Dr. Pam and their advice. And I've got an article here about Dr.
I don't know if you can still hear me because I'm frozen. Or you're frozen. Hello? Going through a bad part of town.